There's a moment that comes to every person who's ever tried to change. You set the goal, you feel the excitement, you take the first steps, and then something happens. A voice whispers, a feeling creeps in, a familiar pattern resurfaces, and suddenly, the person you're trying to become feels impossible to reach. Not because you lack the capability, not because the goal isn't worth it, but because something inside you, something you can't quite name, pulls you back to who you've always been. The ancient Greeks had a word for this, akrasia, knowing what you should do but doing the opposite anyway. Socrates thought it was impossible. He believed that if you truly knew what was right, you'd do it. But Aristotle disagreed. He understood that knowledge alone isn't enough, that between knowing and doing lies a chasm filled with fear, habit, comfort, and the parts of ourselves we'd rather not examine. Today we're going to explore that chasm, not with empty motivation, not with toxic positivity that pretends growth is easy if you just want it enough, but with honest examination of the real obstacles, the internal demons, that keep intelligent, capable people from becoming who they're capable of being, and more importantly, how to face them. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing and liking this video. What we're about to discuss might be the most important conversation you have with yourself this year. Let's begin. Part 1. The comfortable of suffering. The first demon is the most paradoxical. We often choose familiar pain over unfamiliar possibility. Psychologist Abraham Maslow observed, "In any given moment we have two options, to step forward into growth or step back into safety. Growth must be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again." But here's what Maslow understood that most people miss. Safety isn't always safe. Sometimes what we call safety is just familiar suffering. The job that drains you but pays the bills. The relationship that doesn't fulfill you but feels predictable. The habits that harm you but require no difficult decisions. The version of yourself that's smaller than you could be, but at least you know how to navigate it. Carl Jung called this the provisional life, living as if your real life hasn't started yet, as if you're just waiting for the right moment to become who you're meant to be. He wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." But I'd extend that. The greatest burden you carry is your own unlived life. The weight of potential unrealized, of gifts unused, of a self you glimpse in moments of clarity but abandon when things get difficult. Why do we do this? Because growth requires stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is terrifying, even when the known is slowly destroying us. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's research shows that our brains are prediction machines. We feel comfortable when we can predict outcomes. Even if those outcomes are negative, at least we know what to expect. This is why people stay in toxic situations long after they know they should leave. The devil you know feels safer than the angel you don't. But here's the truth that sets you free. Discomfort is not danger. Your nervous system will scream that change is a threat, that stepping outside your comfort zone means something terrible will happen. That's not prophecy. That's just biology trying to keep you where you are. The path forward requires distinguishing between real danger and discomfort, between genuine threats and the unfamiliar. Ask yourself, what am I pretending not to know? What truth about your life, your relationships, your choices are you avoiding because facing it would require you to change? That's where your first demon lives, in the gap between what you know and what you're willing to admit. Part 2. Identity protection. The second demon whispers, "This is just who I am." We build identities, stories about ourselves, and then we defend them like fortresses, even when they've become prisons. I'm not a morning person. I'm not good with money. I'm just naturally anxious. I'm not the type who exercises. I've always been this way. Psychologist Dweck's research on fixed versus growth mindsets reveals something profound. People with fixed mindsets believe their qualities are carved in stone. People with growth mindsets believe qualities can be developed. And here's what matters. These beliefs become self-fulfilling. If you believe intelligence is fixed, you avoid challenges that might prove you're not smart. If you believe it's developable, you seek challenges because they're how you grow. The same pattern applies to everything: confidence, discipline, courage, creativity. But identity protection goes deeper than mindset. It's about who you've become comfortable being. James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, "The biggest barrier to positive change at any level is identity conflict." People do not remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. And the man who decides how others feel decides how he is treated. This is why emotional mastery precedes all other forms of power. Without it, intelligence is wasted, strength is misused, opportunity is squandered. You can be right and still lose. You can be good and still be ignored. You can be capable and still be overlooked. Emotion decides, and once you accept that, you stop trying to convince. You start commanding. That is the shift. That is the threshold. And it is where most men stop, because control is harder than expression. Discipline is harder than reaction. But on the other side of that difficulty is authority. And authority, once established, speaks without effort. Understand this final distinction. Emotional control is not suppression. Suppression stores pressure until it explodes. Control releases nothing without intention. It allows you to feel fully while revealing selectively. This is why masters appear calm even under attack. They experience emotion internally but display strategy externally. That gap between feeling and expression is dominance. Most people collapse that gap instantly. They feel and show in the same moment. That is why they are predictable. Predictability invites manipulation. When others cannot read you, they hesitate. When they hesitate, you lead. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the difference between being driven and driving, between reacting and directing, between being moved and being unmoved. Once you master this, everything else becomes easier. Weakness attracts predators. Once you understand that emotion governs behavior, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. The world does not punish weakness out of cruelty. It punishes weakness out of instinct. Strip away manners, ideology, and social language, and what remains is an ancient rule that has never changed. Strength repels threats. Weakness invites them. There are only two positions available in every environment: the one who applies pressure and the one who absorbs it. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. He warned that mercy without strength does not create loyalty. It creates opportunity for betrayal. Not because people are evil, but because human nature responds to advantage. Weakness is not neutral. It is a signal. It tells others that resistance will be low, that boundaries are soft, that consequences are unlikely, and predators always choose the easiest path. Look at how this plays out in ordinary life. Bullies do not target the strongest person in the room. They target the one least likely to respond. Corporations do not cut their most assertive employees first. They remove the ones who will not fight back. In relationships, partners do not abandon strength. They abandon uncertainty, dependence, and emotional instability. None of this is moral. It is mechanical. Weakness triggers a response in others, sometimes exploitation, sometimes contempt, sometimes quiet dismissal. And here is the part most men refuse to accept. Weakness does not only harm you, it changes how others behave. People begin to justify treating you poorly. They rationalize disrespect. They excuse betrayal. Not consciously, instinctively. This is why Machiavelli said it is safer to be feared than loved when you cannot be both. Not because fear is admirable, but because fear creates distance. Distance creates safety. Love without strength invites testing. Testing invites violation. Fear without cruelty establishes boundaries. Boundaries preserve position. The mistake most men make is believing kindness alone earns loyalty. It does not. Kindness without power is interpreted as permission. This is where illusions collapse. You were taught that being agreeable makes you respected, that being flexible makes you trusted, that being transparent makes you safe. In reality, it often does the opposite. When people sense that you will tolerate discomfort to keep peace, they push. When they sense you fear conflict, they advance. When they sense you need approval, they withhold it. This is not personal, it is positional. Every interaction contains an unspoken question. What happens if I cross this person? If the answer is nothing, the crossing begins. This is why strength must be visible, not loud, not aggressive, but unmistakable. Strength is not violence, it is consequence. It is the knowledge that certain lines cannot be crossed without cost. The man who avoids conflict at all costs does not avoid conflict. He delays it until the cost is higher. Predators sense this delay. They exploit it. And here is the darkest truth. Weakness corrupts the environment around it. People around a weak man become worse versions of themselves. They test more, they respect less, they behave opportunistically. Part 4, Comparison. The fourth demon speaks in the voice of others. Everyone else is ahead of you. You're already too late. Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. But in the age of social media, comparison isn't just a thief, it's a constant invasion. You see someone's success and feel your own inadequacy. You see someone's body and feel shame about your own. You see someone's relationship and feel lonely. You see someone's achievement and feel behind. Social psychologist Leon Festinger called this social comparison theory. We determine our own worth by how we stack up against others. This made sense when you lived in a small community and could reasonably compare yourself to people in similar circumstances. But now, you're comparing yourself to billions of people, most of whom are presenting carefully curated highlight reels. The meditation teacher Tara Brach calls this the comparing mind. She writes, "The comparing mind is always looking outside of ourselves to evaluate whether we are okay. And the conclusion is always the same. We're lacking something. But here's the deeper issue. Even if comparison made logical sense, it's still a trap. Because there will always be someone ahead of you in some dimension. Always someone more successful, more attractive, more talented, more fortunate. If your worth depends on being superior to others, you'll spend your life in a race you can never win. The antidote isn't pretending differences don't exist. It's changing the question from, am I better than them? To, am I better than I was yesterday? From, do I measure up to their standard? To, am I living according to my own values? From, why do they have what I want? To, what can I learn from their path? The ancient Stoics practiced what they called amor fati, love of fate. Not just accepting your circumstances, but embracing them as exactly what you need for your growth. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of history's greatest philosophers, taught, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. This isn't resignation. It's freedom from the exhausting work of resenting your starting point. You didn't choose when you were born, where you were born, what talents you inherited, what opportunities you received, or what challenges you faced. But you can choose what you do with exactly what you have, right now, from here. Your fourth demon dies when you stop measuring your worth by someone else's ruler and start measuring your progress against your own potential. Part 5. Perfection, paralysis. The fifth demon sounds virtuous. If I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. Psychologists call this perfectionism, but it's not really about excellence. It's about fear wearing the mask of high standards. Brené Brown distinguishes between healthy striving and perfectionism. Healthy striving is self-focused. How can I improve? Perfectionism is other-focused. What will they think? Perfectionism tells you, don't start the business until the plan is flawless. Don't share your work until it's beyond criticism. Don't try the new skill until you're sure you'll be good at it. Don't speak up until you have the perfect thing to say. The result: you don't start, you don't share, you don't try, you don't speak, and then you wonder why you're not growing. The writer Anne Lamott captured this in Bird by Bird. Perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor, the enemy of the people. It will keep you cramped and insane your whole life. But where does this demon come from? Often from environments where mistakes weren't allowed, where approval was conditional on performance, where worth was tied to achievement. You learned, I am what I accomplish. If I fail, I am failure. So you avoid situations where failure is possible, which means you avoid situations where growth is possible. Because growth requires attempting things you can't do yet. Making mistakes, looking foolish, being bad before you're good. Carol Dweck's research shows that children praised for intelligence, you're so smart, develop fixed mindsets and avoid challenges. Children praised for effort, you worked really hard, develop growth mindsets and embrace challenges. Why? Because if your worth is tied to being smart, challenges threaten your identity. If your worth is tied to effort, challenges are opportunities. The same pattern continues in adulthood. The path forward requires embracing what the Japanese call wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection. Or, as the saying goes, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Start before you're ready. Publish before it's perfect. Try before you're sure. Speak before you have all the answers. Not recklessly, not carelessly, but bravely. Because the truth is, you learn more from imperfect action than from perfect planning. The entrepreneur Reid Hoffman said, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. That applies to everything. Your first attempt at anything will be imperfect. That's not failure. That's the inevitable first step toward competence. Your fifth demon dies when you value progress over perfection and courage over comfort. Part 6. The demon of unprocessed pain. The sixth demon hides in what we refuse to feel. If I let myself feel this, it will destroy me. So we numb, we distract, we stay busy. We medicate with substances, with food, with work, with entertainment, with relationships, with anything that keeps us from sitting alone with our pain. Psychologist Carl Rogers wrote, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. But acceptance requires feeling what we've been avoiding, the grief we never processed, the anger we never expressed, the fear we never acknowledged, the shame we buried under false confidence." Bessel van der Kolk's research on trauma reveals, the body keeps the score. Unprocessed emotional pain doesn't disappear. It lodges in your nervous system, influencing your reactions, your relationships, your choices. You can't think your way out of unfelt emotions. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Perhaps everything terrible is in its deepest being something helpless that wants help from us." What if your pain isn't trying to destroy you? What if it's trying to show you something you need to see? What if your anxiety is pointing to values you're not honoring? What if your anger is pointing to boundaries you're not enforcing? What if your sadness is pointing to losses you haven't grieved? The meditation teacher Pema Chodron teaches, the most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves, is to remain ignorant by not having the courage to look at ourselves honestly and gently. This doesn't mean wallowing. It doesn't mean dwelling in victimhood. It doesn't mean letting pain consume you. It means creating space to acknowledge what's true, to feel what needs to be felt, to process what you've been carrying, sometimes with a therapist, sometimes with trusted friends, sometimes in solitude, sometimes through writing, art, or movement. But somehow the pain needs light and air, because here's what happens when you avoid pain. You also numb joy. You can't selectively numb emotions. When you close yourself to feeling hurt, you also close yourself to feeling alive. Brené Brown says, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. Your sixth demon dies when you develop the courage to feel without being destroyed by feeling. When you learn that emotions are information, not identity, they pass through you, they don't define you. Part 7. Integration and moving forward. So here you are. You've met your demons, the comfort of familiar suffering, the prison of fixed identity, the story of unworthiness, the exhaustion of comparison, the paralysis of perfectionism, the burden of unfelt pain. These aren't enemies to defeat once and for all. They're patterns to recognize, understand, and transform. The poet Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Your demons, these obstacles to growth, they're also your teachers. Each one points to something important. Your comfort-seeking points to the need for self-compassion alongside challenge. Your identity protection points to the need for stability alongside change. Your unworthiness points to the need to separate your inherent value from your circumstances. Your comparison points to the need to honor your unique path. Your perfectionism points to the need to value courage over flawlessness. Your avoidance points to the need to feel in order to heal. Growth isn't about becoming someone without demons. It's about developing a different relationship with them. Not identifying with them, not believing their stories, not letting them make your decisions, but also not pretending they don't exist. The psychiatrist Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." So make the darkness conscious. Name the demon that's keeping you small right now. The specific one. Not all of them, that's overwhelming. Just one. Which demon's voice is loudest in your life right now? And then ask, what would I do if I wasn't listening to this voice? Not what would you do if you had no fear? That's impossible. But what would you do if you acknowledged the fear and moved forward anyway? That's where your growth lives. Not in the absence of demons, but in the courage to face them and move forward regardless. The path of growth isn't linear. You won't face these demons once and be done with them. They'll return, in new forms, at new levels, throughout your life. But each time you face them, you get stronger. Each time you move forward despite their whispers, you expand what's possible. And slowly, gradually, you become someone who knows how to grow. Not someone without obstacles, but someone who's learned to dance with them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your demons, these things that keep you from growing, can become the very catalysts that force you to develop the qualities you need most. Courage, honesty, resilience, self-compassion, wisdom. So face them, not with violence, but with clarity. Not with self-judgment, but with self-understanding. The life you want, the person you're capable of becoming, is waiting on the other side of this honest examination. And you're capable of that examination, right now, today. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, not without struggle, but capably. That's enough. That's always been enough. Now go face your demons, not because you have to, but because who you'll become in the process is worth it. If this resonated with you, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Sometimes the most important work we do is the internal work nobody sees, and having resources that support that work can make all the difference. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work, and I'll see you in the next one.